First of all, good morning to all participants, and thank you very much, Milena, for giving us this wonderful opportunity to be part of the EdTech team. It is very exciting that within this stage we are actually putting on the agenda lessons learned from a pandemic, because it is crucial not only for organizations that are involved or stakeholders that are involved in the education sector, but this is something that will that will have immense impacts on all sectors, and mostly towards not only to this generation, but for the generations to come. And looking into this context, I think all of us have to keep in view the objective of Sustainable Development Goal 4 of the UN Sustainable Development Goals, which is now more relevant in the way how we are going to obtain that objective by the year 2030, in the sense that we have to ensure inclusive and equitable education and promote lifelong learning opportunities for all. And I think that we have to keep this into the context that will guide us to finally achieve this goal. We will be hearing a lot about strategies and how this institution did this and how this institution did that. And they are all very important to consider, and that's why this is very, very important that we have this topic here right at the end, towards the end of the year 2020, in order for us to understand and in order for us to explain to the whole world how we can actually overcome the challenges. I think that this pandemic in this context is rather an opportunity, and we have to see this as an opportunity that all forces are now geared how we are going to deliver education and lifelong learning for the societies at large. And we have to keep especially the disadvantaged countries in particular, because those are the most difficult, that will be and that will have negative impacts because of this pandemic. So we have to keep all this in context. And I keep on actually repeating on this, because it is fundamental that we'll have human-centered education. We can't have something that is human-centered that ignores some parts of the world, or that makes it much more difficult for some parts of the world to comply with. This pandemic will definitely give us present the challenges and create some more gaps, in the sense that countries that are highly geared on IT infrastructure will make it much more easier to adapt to these situations, rather than those countries that are yet to build infrastructural systems for proper education. And it is good to come up with strategies in the sense that within the past year until early 2020, no one ever heard that the world will be impacted by a pandemic on this sort. In fact, it is not only a surprise to everyone, but it is also a challenge that that some items that were actually put on the back burner for a number of years now became much more relevant and have to be addressed in a way that will shape the societies and the generations to come. So this third intensive study program, as being presented by the European EdTech Network, will actually give insights not only to us as a community, but even to the policymakers at national and international levels, especially at European levels as well. And I think that we must take this opportunity as well in order to come up with policy recommendations that we can also eventually propose to national governments as well. So together, there is a pool of expertise. We as partners of EdTech Network that can highly contribute towards this domain in achieving sustainable development goal 4. As you quite rightly said, Milan, and I thank you for that, you introduced the MCAST Artificial Intelligence Strategy. And by the way, this was a strategy that was actually discussed, come up with prior to COVID-19. Actually, this was in the years 2018, 2019, when governments were geared up for national strategies across all parts of the world in order to present artificial intelligence as a revolution in the world we live. And at that time, we didn't know about any pandemics, but actually we had set the goals of how we should shape the education sector within the years to come, within the 5 years to come. So I don't say that we preempted this, and I don't want to be interpreted in that manner, but this made it a bit easier for us in order to adapt with the new requirements of the technologies that were required for education. We heard an excellent presentation by Carlos, and it was, and he gave several insights of how we had to adapt to this new reality. New reality that presented challenges, that presented gaps, that presented opportunities, that even in some aspects of it made us more, gave us more opportunities to contribute and to focus in particular on the shift from the traditional methods of learning towards the digital ways of learning. I will give my my floor to my colleague Stephen Hall. He is an IT technologist that will explain will browse through the artificial intelligence strategy, and at the end will give you some insights of how the pandemic had actually impacted how it impacted the artificial intelligence strategy.
Thank you, Joe. Good morning, all. I'm just going to share a slide presentation which we prepared specifically for this purpose, which is here. Just bear with me a second. Is that showing up? Okay, perfect.
Yes,
perfect. Thank you very much. So this is our roadmap 2025. As my colleague Joe just explained, this was formulated in 2018, 2019, and came to fruition prior to the COVID pandemic outbreak. But we have leveraged on the opportunities and the challenges which the outbreak has brought about in adapting the strategy we had set up in the best way possible, which, as Joe explained, we'll be discussing later. So we're part of the Applied Research and Innovation Center here at MCAST, and we're one of the largest institutions, educational institutions in Malta. We have just over 11,000 students, just under 800 academics, and we recognized earlier on that the stakeholders for this strategy would be the students, the academics, the institution itself, and ultimately industry, because that's where all our students are working towards fitting into society, as it were. There's three major goals which we looked at for the strategy. The first being that the MCAST students be better prepared for an industry that includes AI, and AI is of course becoming more prolific as the days go by. And it's not going away anytime soon. There's going to be more and more proliferation of artificial intelligence in all our industries, even in education itself. And we have a separate educational technology framework, which our colleague Edwin Zamit, who's Deputy Director of Innovation, has been spearheading. The second goal is that MCAST students assisted and managed with the support of AI through their learning experience. So this is where we pinned our AI strategy to enhance the learning experience of our students, enhance the potential of their learning of our students, and at the same time providing the educators, the lecturers, with the tools that AI can provide to enhance their deliveries. And the third most important goal is that lecturers are more competent in understanding and applying AI in their teaching, in their research, and in their industry solutions. So I'll just quickly go through the 9 initiatives which have made up this strategy and which we're following. They're not all going to be implemented over the next 5 years. They will all be started. Some of them will be complete, but others will drag on much further simply because the technology is not yet available. But we have looked ahead in a visionary fashion so that we can pre-align our initiatives in that direction, because it's only a matter of time before they actually take off. So the first initiative is enhancing e-learning environments. And this is where e-learning environments using virtual learning environments like Moodle and like several others will be enhanced with the ability of artificial intelligence. Cobots that monitor the individual students' activities and actions without invading their privacy, of course, always held in the highest esteem. It will help the student towards performing better by recognizing the possible advantageous learning styles which they have, and therefore delivering content in a way which works best for that student. The second initiative is personalized learning through smart content. And this leans over from the first initiative, where we'll be using AI-based suites that caters for individual students' needs. So if, for example, a student is recognized as having a trait of, for example, tardiness in attending class, then obviously the notifications come up much earlier than they would otherwise have been. That's just one small example of how this can be. Another example is that the system provides optimized smart content that attunes to the student's learning style and level. And this is very important. So it identifies the learning environment, identifies the level at which that student has grasped a particular concept, and then brings that student up to speed with the level that is required for the class he or she is attending. Continuous professional development, of course, extremely important in any educational institution, but particularly within from the perspective of artificial intelligence for academics. You know, the academics need to know what tools are available to them and how they can capitalize and make best use of these tools in their teaching and delivery. The fourth, intelligent tutoring systems, where application of AI-based solutions will enhance the creation of most suitable lesson plans. Now, a lot of educators face this problem on a day-to-day basis. It's not really a problem, but it's an ongoing challenge which we've attuned our life to follow. But it doesn't have to be that way, and AI can certainly contribute very positively in this regard. So lesson plans will be adapted to, for example, the students which are attending the class. It may be a situation where a particular student who has a particular learning need will not be attending that class on that day, so the student the lesson plan may be altered to optimize towards the students which are attending. A fifth initiative is the simplification in administration. Of course, administration is always a day-to-day challenge, and artificial intelligence has a big role to play in this regard. Timetabling, for example, which is everybody's nightmare. Of course, there are timetabling applications which do simplify this process significantly. But we believe AI can take this further, and we need to be ready to take this technology on board and drive that optimization. Smart campus buildings. This is an area which is very, very much at the heart of my colleague here, Joe, who's an architect by profession and an engineer. And we're looking at preparing our campus, which is constantly being developed, reconstructed, and reinventing itself for the implementation of more smarter abilities, which AI will certainly contribute towards. Initiative 7, there's only 2 more to go, so just bear with me just a little bit, is the alignment of learning outcomes of our programs to job profiles. And these are job profiles which may not even exist when the student would have embarked on their educational career. So it's a bit of a forecasting exercise where AI will be involved in establishing where jobs are going to be in 5-6 years' time when the student actually graduates. You know, MCAST is wonderful because it takes in students from the age of 16 all the way up to higher education. So we do master's degrees. We'll shortly also be offering doctoral programs. So we've got a very broad spectrum of students from all age groups, and you know, when you start off at an institute at the age of 16, and then you graduate with an undergraduate or a postgraduate at the age of 20 or 24, that's a lifetime. Okay, so obviously we need to make sure that our the learning outcomes of the programs we are delivering do actually meet the future needs of the job profiles which there will be in the future. Initiative number 8, curriculum and AI specific programs and projects. So a constant optimization of our curriculum. This lends over from initiative 7 as well, preparing today's students for tomorrow's AI augmented world. So there's going to be, this hasn't started yet, although there's already talks with curriculum and quality assurance at MCAST, where we're going to be introducing AI-specific modules as part of the core curriculum in all programs which will be delivered within MCAST. This prepares the students for the AI world which they will no doubt be facing. The 9th and final initiative of this ambitious strategy is the collaboration with industry on AI technology. So on the brink of the next industrial revolution, industry 4.0 ecosystem requires that AI prepared students do end up in industry, and in collaborating with industry at a higher level, then we are ensuring that industry is ready and MCAST is ready to collaborate in this relationship. And that pretty much sums up my contribution for the AI strategy. There's of course lots of lessons learned which came about as a consequence of the COVID pandemic. one in particular, which I'd like to mention, is that I think we can all agree there's a lot more potential to online learning than we previously taught. Carlos earlier on said that they've been delivering online programs for several years, and I really admire that way forward. But other institutions which had not previously had that experience have realized the real potential of online learning. And I think we can all agree that having had to quickly react to the realities that this pandemic has brought about has made us realize how much more potential there actually is to online learning. And although we had started blended learning in 2018 with 8 of our programs at MCAST, this already had given us some insights as to selecting which topics, which concepts could be easily delivered online, and which concepts and topics mandated that there is a college on-campus experience taking place. And I think what this has taught us is that if we're more selective about what materials are delivered in class and what materials can afford to be delivered online, it enriches the student experience. Because although we'd like to see our campuses full, with students and lots of activities going on, it can actually be richer if the activities which take place on campus are select. And we think that's a lesson we can walk away with and we'd like to share with you. Joe, there was some other materials you wanted to
in fact,
share.
Actually, as I'm thinking forward about this this strategy and how the pandemic actually had impact on this strategy, I would like to explain that first of all, the goals of the strategy and the objective of the strategy will remain. So, so it is the implementation stages of the strategy that were actually impacted by the pandemic, in the sense that first of all, and I see that there are actually 3 main aspects how this as a ways of thinking and moving forward, in the sense that first of all, an important stakeholder for the implementation of this strategy will definitely be the health authorities. So actually collaboration with health authorities will be very, very important in the months and years to come, in order to see how this will impact the implementation stages. This is very important because in the sense that we'll have a shift towards digital learning, but actually we need to look also into issues like student placement, student experience, hands-on experience with at workplaces, at offices. So actually collaboration with health authorities has to actually be an integral part of the implementation stage. Also, the second point will be the lessening of the dependency on mobility exchanges. So actually we have to adopt new ways of how to lessen mobility in the sense that we will obtain the goals of the strategy, but in a different mode, in a different manner. And thirdly, which incidentally relates to the first 2, is in enhancing the dimension of health and well-being in developing a smart campus building. I think this issue, the issue of health and well-being, will actually be very high on the agenda, especially as we're hearing about mental health issues, physical health issues. So in parallel to the development of the IT tools and the IT infrastructure, we have to develop also an ambience where it provides and be beneficial for human beings in the aspects of health and well-being. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, wonderful. Well, thank you, Joseph and Stephen, for the presentation. It was really interesting. And I think for me, especially, it's interesting how you want to use AI to, well, to catch up on all the changes that are happening now, quicker than ever, really. And as you said, now we are just discovering the potential of online learning, because at some universities, we've been doing it for years, but others are just starting. So it's really interesting to see how this year speed up all these processes. So let's see how it will go on. And creating your artificial intelligence strategy, as Joseph said at the beginning, you are already ahead of some of other institutions, because you are at least have this mindset that you wanted to do it anyway, and now you'll do it just a little bit faster. So let's see how this will go. I can see some questions here. First from Italo. How long have you come into the initiatives, and are you working with them in parallel? Who would like to answer this one?
Okay, so yes, we are embarking on a number of the initiatives in parallel. Not all at the same rate. They all have their own projects, most of which are being funneled through our very innovative EdTech framework, which our colleague Edwin has been working on very, very thoroughly. This is a wonderful framework which we have put together, and it allows for multiple projects to be run concurrently by a core team of EdTech specialists. So of course, AI is an educational technology in our setting, most certainly at MCAST. So we are running on a number of initiatives in parallel. There are two initiatives in particular which haven't started yet, but all the others, we're happy to say, are progressing very well.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. And one more from Bingji. I hope that I pronounced your name correctly. Please tell me how to do it better if I didn't. Hello, when the AI strategy proposes an individualized study plan, will the system monitor students' behavior in case they turn to other irrelevant activities? Because in learners' personal learning environment, they are rapidly distracted by other distractions, even if they have study plans.
Yes, there are several studies which are ongoing by some of our students, particularly in that area, where student attention is actually captured and registered. It's not happening now; it's still at research stage, but there are initiatives and studies which are ongoing in that specific area using visual attention monitoring devices.
Wow, that's interesting. And have you had? Do you have anything in place already, or is it right now on the research stage?
It's on the research side, but we do actually have some data which has been gathered, which demonstrates that the proof of concept is actually on the right track.
Wonderful, thank you. And Caroline, as part of the Sustainable Development Goals, are you offering scholarships for online learning for students from less developed countries? What relationships do you currently have with less developed countries?
Mm-hmm. Yes, so in this aspect, we all know that there are European funds that are being actually contributed towards, dedicated actually towards the different study programs. We have quite some programs here at MCAST as well. And we are actually looking at how we will offer new programs even for several countries that are actually in not that particular stage or in a disadvantaged stage. In fact, education, for example, education in Malta, let's put it that way, education in Malta is free. We have free education here, even free universities. And even so, in the case of universities, you'll get stipends as you go along. So we have dedicated a lot of efforts in order to have the education community that will rise up to the challenges. Obviously, the EU dimension had actually impacted this as well. and we have some programs also for EU students, and there are also some programs as well for non-EU students as well.
Mm-hmm. And what countries from the outside of the European Union do you work with?
Mainly, we have a lot of students from African countries as well. Then we have a lot of students from Russia as well. Russia is also
India.
and India as well. Yes, and India as well. We have in fact we have also collaboration in India about setting a campus there in India too. So actually, we see how this collaboration and network will eventually enhance the MCAST community.
Wow, that's interesting. I would love to hear about it in the next ISP. How it goes,
Sure.
Keep it. I will keep a track on it. And another one from Dina. How the chat jumped? Let me just go back a little bit higher. How have students reacted to the explicit focus you are placing on AI? Students' reaction.
I'm sorry, the connection was lost for a minute. Could you
sorry.
repeat that question, Milena? I apologize.
How have students reacted to the explicit focus you are placing on AI?
Okay, so the reactions have been different. It's still early days to actually see what the full impact would be, because there hasn't been one of the initiatives which has been fully deployed yet. Or the shortest term of any initiative is a 5-year period, so we're still in year 2, as it were, of that cycle. But we have piloted some projects for AR, VR, yes, and now we're exploring with extended reality as well, which involves AI. The reactions have been very, very positive. Lots of the students, the majority of students, have been very adapting to the technology, very welcoming to the technology. There are, of course, the concerns on privacy, which they will always raise, and it's good that they do, because that means that there's an awareness that privacy is an important factor to be taken into consideration with any AI technology. But that is a positive. That is a positive. So generally, the response has been fairly positive.
In fact, if I may, on this particular point, to what with my colleague Stephen, we are currently in the process of drafting an AI charter that will actually look into the issues of, first of all, the ethical issues for a human-centered approach in AI. I know that this is a debate that will never end, and the issues that come up, but we always have to be that all tools, all infrastructure will be human-centered in a way that everyone will be in a comfort zone that will have that will actually see that there are no breach of any legal or human rights. Even, for example, in the development of our smart campus as well, which is going quite at a rapid pace.
That's great. I mean, about the campus, I would really love to have a longer chat about it with you, because at IE we are also building now a tower, so we will have a vertical campus. Yes. And I would really like to know what you're doing over there and see how your ideas can help us. I have a few more questions here, but unfortunately we ran out of time for the Q&A session.